AI is making us dumber and dumber, and I genuinely believe that. Everywhere you look right now, everyone is saying, "Oh, same fucking thing. I'm using AI to make my life 1,000 times better and easier, blah, blah, blah. Take advantage of AI right now. Use AI for everything. AI can fuck your girlfriend better than you do. Use AI to fucking replace your brain." Every fucking reel I see on Instagram, every fucking creator is like, Claude just killed video editors. Claude just killed marketing agencies. And I'm getting so fucking tired of everyone trying to push these AI, bullshit down our throats, and we're supposed to accept it and pretend that it's this amazing thing, but but in reality, it's making our lives worse. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that everything about AI is bad, and it definitely helps with a lot of stuff. And I use AI pretty much every day for my business. I use Claude pretty much every day. So I'm not anti-technology or anti-AI, but I think there are different ways to use it, and most people use it the wrong way, in my opinion. And because I can see in real time, people stop thinking, like actually stop using their brains. They can't write an email without AI. They can't fucking summarize an article without AI. They can't come up with an idea without asking AI first. And everyone acts like this is progress and like this is the future and we should be excited about it. But I'm not excited about it. I'm actually concerned because everyone is outsourcing their thinking to a machine, and most people don't realize what they're giving up. Because when you use AI for everything, even the most basic activities, you're giving up a lot more than you realize. And I read this article, and I think it was about this university student who was asked about why he uses AI for everything, and his answer was, "You're asking me to go from point A to point B. Why wouldn't I use a car to get there?" And at first, of course, that makes complete sense because why wouldn't you take the fastest route? Why wouldn't you use the most efficient tool available? And obviously, we all use cars to move from point A to point B as fast as possible. But what about the times when we don't really need to use a car to go from point A to point B? What do we actually lose by driving instead of walking? Well, when you drive, you save time, of course, but you lose the exercise. You lose the opportunity to be healthier. You lose the opportunity to take the sun, maybe, I don't know, which is important for vitamin D production. You lose the thinking that happens during the walk, and you're not watching your phone, for example. Have you ever noticed how your best ideas usually come when you're in the shower or maybe walking and you have nothing in your ears? You're not looking at your phone. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Now, AI is the same thing. When you ask AI to summarize an article instead of reading it, yeah, you save 20 minutes, but you lose the thinking that happens while you're reading it. The connections your brain makes between what you're reading and something you already know. The moments when one sentence reminds you of something completely unrelated, and suddenly you get a new idea. And that process is where creativity actually comes from. And you're skipping it entirely because you wanted to save 20 minutes. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, right? Because you might say, well, Alex, what's the problem? I'm saving 20 minutes. I thought efficiency and speed were good things, right? And they are, but not when they reduce your cognitive abilities. Not when 7 times means that you're making your brain slower and less efficient. And I read this thing somewhere, and I think it's so funny, but it's so true and concerning at the same time. And when I read it, it was honestly fucking mind blowing because when I sat down and actually started thinking about it, basically it said that someone uses AI to turn a bullet list into a full document. And they send it to someone who uses AI to condense that document back into a bullet list. And nobody thought at any stage during this process. Nobody wrote anything, nobody read anything, and it was just AI talking to AI with humans in the middle of this process, just pressing fucking buttons. And Do you see how bad this is? Do you realize how concerning this is? We're basically becoming the middleman of AI. And how is this progress? Like honestly, how is this supposed to make humanity like better? And I'm not talking about the good things that AI can do, for example, in the medical field or other things like that. We can use AI to find cancer and save people's lives, and that's amazing. I'm all for it. But I'm talking about human interactions and creativity and critical thinking, and all these things. And AI is making them worse, not better. Also, your brain works like a muscle. And if you use it, it gets stronger. And if you don't use it, it gets weaker. And going back to the example of saving 20 minutes to summarize an article, it seems harmless when you think about it in terms of time saved. But if you think about it in the long term, how do you think your brain is going to change if you keep doing it for the next 10 or 20 years? Obviously, your brain is going to get slower and less efficient. Now, I haven't done any research on this, but I know for a fact that if you want to age in a good way, you need to train your body and your mind. Because if you don't train your muscles, well, you won't be able to walk when you're old. And if you don't train your mind, you're going to lose sharpness and you might even increase your chances of developing like dementia or Alzheimer's or, any of these neurological disorders. So every time we take a shortcut with technology, we lose a little bit of our mental sharpness. But I think AI is a different level of shortcut because with AI, you're basically offloading the entire thinking process from start to finish. And when you stop thinking for yourself, your brain gets lazier and less efficient, as I said, but you don't feel it happening in the moment. You're gonna wake up one day, you're not gonna wake up one day and suddenly be dumb. That's not gonna happen, but it's a gradual process. You just slowly start finding it harder to focus, harder to come up with ideas on your own, harder to sit down and write something without AI helping you. And then one day you realize that you literally cannot do these things anymore. And people are already spending 3 to 4 hours a day scrolling on social media, which is already destroying their attention span. Now, if you add AI on top of that, you basically have a generation that can barely focus, can barely write, and can barely form an original thought. And that's why I'm personally going in the opposite direction. I'm reading more, I'm writing more, and I'm forcing myself to think before I use AI, before I ask AI anything, because I know it's going to give me an unfair advantage in the future. If everyone else is using AI for everything and their brains are getting weaker and weaker, if I do the opposite, my brain is going to get stronger and stronger, and I'm going to have an advantage, honestly. Uh, because I think the competition will be non existent. Just being able to read an article and understand it will give you an advantage. It's some basic stuff that you should be able to do when you're a fucking kid. It's gonna give you an advantage in the future, I think. People are already having a hard time doing that today because of AI, because of technology and social media. Imagine how it will be in 10 or 20 years. And sometimes I stop and I think about the future generations, and I think that kids nowadays are completely fucked. Because at least we grew up without this stuff. Like my generation, our brains had a chance to develop normally. I'm 28, and my generation was probably the last one or one of the last ones to actually went outside to play as kids. Like we used to go outside and play, and we played in the street. We used our imagination. Whenever we got bored, we use our imagination to find fun things to do, and invent new games and find creative ways to entertain ourselves. And like I remember me and my little brother used to have this game, used to come up with the most creative games. And we had this game. Basically, we had armchairs with covers in the house, and we used to take the armchairs and flip them upside down and get inside the covers of the armchair. So basically, get inside, and one of us would spin the armchair as around as fast as possible, and the other one would be inside the cover, and we would pretend that it was like a spaceship or something. I don't know if you can imagine what I'm saying, but it was used to be so much fun, and I can still remember the feeling of playing that game when I was a kid. I don't know if kids right now have that same, that thing. They have that imagination. because they spend all their time on TikTok watching brain rot or watching Mr. Beast or some other bullshit like that. And that's already bad enough that they're spending a lot of the time in front of a screen instead of playing outside like a normal fucking kid. But if you add AI on top of that, basically now you have kids who are growing up during the most critical period of brain development, the time when you're supposed to be learning how to think, how to solve problems, how to deal with frustration, and instead of doing any of that, their brains are being replaced by a machine. They don't have to figure anything out. They can just ask AI and it does it for them. I don't know. I think it's scary, man, because these are supposed to be the future leaders of the world and they're fucked. Like they're completely fucked. I mean, we're fucked. The entire human race is fucked if we keep going in this direction. And I don't know if you think I'm being dramatic. I mean, look at what social media has done. Do you think that social media has made our lives better overall? And I would argue, no, it didn't. Because if you look at the kids who grew up with social media, they all have fucking anxiety, depression. They can't focus for more than 30 seconds on anything. And that's just from consuming content. Do you think it's going to be better with AI? I don't think so. I think it's going to get worse. If I ever decide to have kids one day, and I don't even know if it makes sense to have kids in this fucking world we live in right now, but if I ever decide to have kids, I'm gonna make sure they grow up without AI and without fucking technology. At least they need to learn how to use technology, of course, but they need to grow up without that stuff. They need to use their imagination and use their brains and learn how to think. But I think every parent should do that, but they just don't care. I don't know. I don't know, man. I think it's depressing, but the worst thing is if you think about all the billionaires who are developing this technology, do you think they really give a shit about all this? And of course they don't care. They don't care about your cognitive health. They don't care about your kids. They don't care about the long-term consequences of what they're building. They only care about the money and they care about their own vision of the future. And they justify what they're doing by saying, this is the future and it's inevitable. I'm like, motherfucker, you're making this inevitable. Like, you're building this future and it's not fucking inevitable. You can stop trying to replace human beings with fucking machines just to get richer, just to make more money. And they justify people losing their jobs and getting replaced by AI, saying that it's good for humanity and that if we reach fucking general intelligence, all of our problems are going to be solved. I don't know if I believe this shit. And if we reach these fucking AGI, as they say, it's not because AI became more intelligent than us, but it's because we became progressively dumber and dumber. And I don't know, that's my take. However, the point of this video is to tell you that you should not use AI for fucking everything. Like, you should not replace your brain with AI. Like, you can use AI, but you need to use it the right way. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So yeah, that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.